I don't think there's such a thing. We can argue whether the food is good or bad, but I think what you're doing is you're dealing with a behavioral issue. So I'm going to give you three things that you can do. So I'm going to ask you three questions. The first one is treats. What treats are you giving the dog, or who else is giving the dog treats? And the question is the dog holding out for these treats? And instead of eating instead of eating the food, the dog is instead holding out for these treats. These will make the dog's eating pattern very, very patchy, and it will lead you to believe that the dog is being picky or the dog's being fussy. But in reality, your dog is holding out for these treats that they really like. It doesn't necessarily have to be treats, it could be table scraps, it could be the things you're giving the dog to supplement their diet, or because you feel sorry for the thing, or because you feel sorry for them when you are eating your own food. Dogs are dogs sometimes like what we are eating. But if you succumb to that behavior, of course you're gonna have a picky dog. The second one is the family. Have you had the family talk? We see this all the time. People will come to us and we say, well, who else is feeding the dog? Who else is feed Who else is feeding the dog? Is Nana feeding the dog? Are the kids feeding the dog? You must have that talk and you must have that rapport with your family and say, we are dealing with this issue of a picky eater, and we all need to get on board and not feed the dog anything that's not their food, because that will exacerbate the problem. Because that will exacerbate the problem, of course. So gather your family around and make sure no one is feeding the dog. That will be very useful. And the third one, are you in charge or is your dog in charge of the food? If at any sort of if you are having to constantly make the if you are constantly having to make feeding or the feeding time exciting, well, you are just fueling that behavior. You're enabling that behavior. So what you need to do is what you need to do is take control of what your dog is doing and get one step ahead. How do you do that? Well, the first thing you must do is make sure the dog is well hydrated, because hydration is key. Then what we're going to do is, having had the talk with their family and acknowledged that having acknowledged that no one needs to and having acknowledged that no treats need to and having acknowledged treats and that the dog can have access to any other food apart from their own, we we are going to we are going to make the food time limited. We're going to put the food down, and if the dog doesn't eat within 10 minutes, we are going to take it away. And then we are going to try again in a few hours, in 2-3 feeds. If the dog is and that is going to be morning and night. 10 minutes availability in the morning and 10 minutes availability on a night. We are going to repeat that for 2, 3, 4 days. I assure you, the dog, if the dog is just being picky and the dog's not having acute pancreatitis, for example, the dog will eat. The dog has to eat. The dog is not inherently. The dog. Dogs don't starve. They have to eat. They are scavengers. They will eat eventually. So be patient. I know it's painful. I know it's painful. Be patient, and the dog will eat. I know dogs are now our babies. However, these behaviors cannot go on because they will drive you crazy. You will keep you will keep changing the food and you will keep having this problem time and time again, month in and month out. You will try 35 different foods and the problem will not subside. So if you have a picky eater, treats, who's giving the dog treats, have a talk with the family, and then make sure you are in charge of your dog's diet and not your dog. Make sure keep the dog well hydrated. Make sure the dog is healthy, and if the dog is healthy, the dog is well hydrated, you've been stern, you've been consistent, the dog will eat, your life will be a lot better.